hear me? Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
We're hot.
Hi, everyone. We are iFixit, and today we're going to be tearing down the GoPro Karma drone. So if that's what you are looking for, you are in the right place. So my name is Scott. I am dubbed a teardown engineer, and I'm joined by Evan.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Evan. I'm also a teardown engineer. What does that mean? That means I break things so you don't have to. The day-to-day of my job is writing repair manuals and teardowns, and basically showing people how your devices tick.
So we are gonna go over some older material we went over yesterday. So for the familiar faces, we apologize. You're gonna hear some stuff again. There's enough new faces that we should probably go over what is iFixit. Well, iFixit is a library full of repair manuals. We include repair manuals for about everything we can think of, whether it be cell phones, bikes, laptops, you name it, we try to have it. And so even with the wide array of things, we'll need help. And when we reach out to partners and we reach out to cool NGOs, as you can see here, we actually had a project to do water pumps in Africa. And so we got some help from the local community, and we had it supported in another language too, which I didn't include. But you know, with all these repair manuals, it leads to the question, why would you want to repair your stuff anyway? Well, it's sustainable. Sustainable is good. One thing that's often overlooked, we focus on consumer electronics, and with all of the consumer electronics that we do, we generate a ton of e-waste. And it's something that's very easy to not think of. You know, you think of recycling your aluminum can, but you don't really think of recycling your iPhone. Repair saves money. We have an example, you know, if you have an old phone lying around, say an iPhone 3GS. This is an old phone. No one has this anymore. I still have a 5. This is also outdated. It is older than 5 years.
A little bit, yeah, I'd say 7-year-old technology at this point.
Yeah.
About that.
But let's say you scrap it. What is it worth? If you just throw it away, what is the value of that piece of junk? Well, it's less than $1. So kind of, you know, not much. Let's say you want to resell it broken. Like, who wants to buy a broken iPhone? Someone does. There's some, you know, people who have uses for broken iPhones somewhere, I suppose. But about 10 to 15 bucks. That's how much you're going to get for it. Well, what if you refurbish it? What if you fix it? Well, then the value's there. So by taking the time to repair the phone, you are actually restoring value to an otherwise cheap piece of metal in plastic. Last thing, which we touched on as well yesterday, is that repair is freedom. I'm all about consumer empowerment. We treat a lot of our electronic devices as black boxes, so it's nice to go ahead and have a little bit of knowledge of what we're working with. So in order to do that, we try to share all of our content with the world, so we'd like to keep it open source and free. We love people to contribute and make their own guides, and we like to give those guides away to everyone at no cost.
So how does this work? We could not do any of this on our own. We know our team we have a good team, but we have like 27,000 repair manuals on our website. How do we make that happen? Folks like you. We have a community online that's, I think, over 100,000 strong at this point. And iFixit brings together an online community from around the globe focused on repair. This is a map of all of our users. As you can see, we are very popular in the United States as well as Europe. We do localize in over 10 languages, and we've gained traction in countries such as India and other developing nations, which is really good to see. But you guys are here to see a teardown, so let's talk about that. This is one of our older teardowns. Does anyone know what this is, by any chance?
It's okay, I didn't either.
This is the Nexus Q, which flopped as a product, but still was a pretty interesting device to tear down. And I couldn't stand up here and talk about teardowns without plugging our toolkits. These are the bread and butter of our operation. We give away our guides, but we got to keep the lights on, so we sell toolkits. And I'm happy to say that they're pretty awesome. But when we're doing teardowns, we talk about repairability, and what exactly does that mean? Cost and time. You know, time is money, and we want to see how much do you have to invest to fix a screen, to change a battery, simple things like that. In addition, we look at design trends. You know, we're in a phase where we're getting a lot of design anorexia. You know, the newest MacBooks are getting thinner and thinner. Microsoft recently put out a Surface laptop that is literally ultrasonically welded shut. You can't do anything about that. And we don't like to see that, but we also like to keep consumers informed. But without further ado, let's get to it.
So, as I said earlier, we are going to be tearing apart a drone. In particular, the GoPro Karma drone. I don't know if people have heard of this. It's one of the consumer drones on the market. It has had some issues, which are fun for us because we hear about issues and then we like to explore as maybe why those issues were present. To kind of set the tone, we have an example of a do-it-yourself drone. And the cool thing about these is you can kind of see how the maker community, when they do it, it's super modular. And I mean, there are a lot of pieces. You can see the intricacy, but for us, what we see is the fact that you can build this thing with the ability to kind of pick and play, remove parts, put parts on. And that's something that for us, we think, okay, so when you move it to market, it should be modular. Because let's face it, drones fly, drones crash. This is something that happens. When you fall out of the sky, things are likely going to break. So with that being the case, we need to think about, this is an important product to have the ability to be repaired. So Evan's starting to crack into the GoPro. Can I go back to the slides real quick though? Thank you. So this is a picture of not Evan cracking into it. This is the GoPro Karma drone. I don't know if you guys heard, they actually released the drone and then they were having issues with it falling out of the sky. Now, what ended up being the case was the battery compartment on it is a little loose, and as it would fly, the connections would actually kind of dislodge themselves and it would just lose power. So it would stop flying and crash and break. So they recalled it and started to try to, put it out again. And this is the re-released version. I don't know, I'm sure most people in here are familiar with what a GoPro looks like, but this is kind of where the GoPro would sit. It's sold separately, so they have this fancy little kind of hookup for it. Pretty easy to take on and off, which is what we like to see. Meant for the user, the consumer, but this might break, but we want to know about everything else. If it crashes and something else breaks, what are we dealing with?
I am motoring through this. So we already pulled out the battery, which takes about 5 seconds. Drones fly for about half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour. So swapping a battery is a must. So that came out pretty quickly. Next, I'm currently working on removing the motor arms, as you can see. And that's simple as removing 4 of these screws over here. You'll notice there's only 3. I have taken this apart before. And then popping these power cables out of their mid-frames.
Evan, what kind of screws are those?
These are these are Allen screws.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's...
So they're non-proprietary, pretty available. Most of you probably have them in the form of those little IKEA wrenches.
Yeah, the IKEA wrenches. Oh, and these are things that can be found at Home Depot. So when we look at this, these arms are definitely something that could break when a GoPro drone falls out of the sky. So we like to see that the screw type to remove it and put one on is something that you can go to Home Depot and buy.
Yeah, I want to draw attention to the fact that we've been here for about 2 minutes and I already got one of the motor arms off. That's really awesome because if any of you flown a drone, you know they crash. And not only are they easy to remove, but GoPro actually sells replacement motor arms, which is awesome. We love to see when manufacturers offer replacement parts because it makes it so much easier for consumers to do it on their own.
And so I will also talk about iFixIT a little bit, just take a second to do this, because for those that are unaware, we do the repair manuals and we do these teardowns, but we're actually pretty known for some good photography. So I actually have to pump Evan up right here because these pictures he did on the fly before we left, got them edited and uploaded pretty much today. So good photography. You don't really think of engineers as being, maybe the most artsy, but Evan has got a beautiful eye for photography.
Oh, Scott.
I'm getting ahead of him, but I think just barely. Can we see, Evan, are you about to expose this board, right?
We're about to.
How's it concealed?
It's just a couple screws at the bottom over here. I'm gonna pop this off and show you. There's screw holes here, 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 and then 2 more down there. And actually, you can pop this cover off before you even start removing any of the lower components. So you can access the motherboard in literally 1 step, which is also pretty cool.
Now that being said, yeah, if you wanted to remove the motherboard, could you do it from here?
I could right now, but that's only because I was working on the bottom end. It is held in place by a number of Torx screws right here, and it's also locked in to the cables that were plugged in at the back right here. Right there. One thing I do want to draw attention to is just how densely packed this board is. You're designers, you know that heat dissipation is always an issue, and right off the bat, you would never be able to accomplish this in a stationary object. This is the most densely packed board I've ever seen. You want to go back to the slide, Scott, while I work on this motherboard?
So we go through and we start to look at all these components on the board. What are things doing? One thing that we found that was pretty interesting is some of the ribbon cables and how they're connecting, the board to components or other boards within the drone. They had these ZIF, zero insertion force connectors, but then they actually threw glue on it as well. And I at first saw this and I was like, well, that's kind of weird and kind of uninteresting. But then Evan tried to get it off to pull the cable out, and it was a nightmare. I think, didn't you say, how long did it take you to get all these glue off to actually?
It was a pretty substantial pain in the butt. ZIF connectors are awesome. It takes about 5 seconds to disconnect one, but with all this glue in place, each connector probably took a minute to safely disconnect. That was one thing we were not happy to see at all.
And so,
but you do have to reconcile the fact that I understand they probably did it because this thing is vibrating in the air. So it was probably a last minute addition. Maybe they didn't account for that in the initial design phase, but it was necessitated by the vibrations.
Yes, and I was gonna build on that, saying after, at iFIXIT, we're speculating. We don't necessarily, sometimes people aren't super excited that we're breaking their stuff apart and showing the world what's inside. So we're speculating, but I think, like Evan was saying, the vibration is something that could definitely wiggle ZIF connectors out of place. You crash a drone twice and then, all of a sudden a ZIF connector pops out and it's not gonna work, and most consumers won't think to go back in there and put it in. So especially after the falling out of the sky incident, which was due to connectors kind of falling out of place, we're kind of thinking maybe on the re-release they got nervous and wanted to kind of cover all their bases. So in addition to just the connector, they maybe just threw some glue on to be extra safe. As I said, all speculation, have no idea. If anyone here knows GoPro, please come see me after so I don't, blab nonsense to everyone. Another thing, because like I said, with iFIXIT, whenever we look at these things, we have to think about the big picture and what this means for design and what this means for the consumer. So for us, we love cables, ribbon cables, ZIF connectors, press connectors. All of that is good for us because that means there's an element of modularity. So the alternative to ribbon cables and press connectors and all of that good stuff is that it would be soldered to the board. Now, if it's soldered to the board, odds are you're probably not going to be able to fix it if it breaks. Actually, people in this crowd, there's probably a lot of people that could do that, but the average consumer, the average middle school teacher, probably not going to have the confidence to start breaking out the soldering iron or to, they see a broken chip and it's dead to them. So if there's ribbon cables where you can start to replace things without having to necessarily really dive onto a circuit board, that's good. We like to see that. That is exciting for us at iFIXIT. So the fact that this has ribbon cables is also not surprising design-wise because the geometry of the device kind of demands that. It would demand an FPC, but it's also good for the consumer because it means there's an element of repairability that's added. You got it free? All right.
Yeah, we got the motherboard out.
Can we go back to the slides real quick? We'll see if we can find some. Oh, and we have to plug our tools, naturally. Yeah. Nice pictures, nice tools. Yay. So if we, moving forward, we can see here, this is the dense motherboard that he was talking about. I'll just speak, I think Evan's probably gonna be more excited about this, but so on the DIY drone that I showed way back, they had this big old antenna. And it's kind of cool. On this one, it is that kind of orange thing in the middle. It actually sticks up, what, about 1/4 of an inch, maybe?
Yeah, the GPS module right there in the middle.
Yeah.
There's a pretty substantial bump on it. I don't know if you can get that on the camera, but y'all can see it. It's a pretty hefty module. Another thing I want to draw attention to is these power cables over here. I've never seen power cables this fat in most consumer electronics, but that's because you're killing a, what's the rating on this? 75 watt-hour battery in about 30 minutes. That's some pretty solid power delivery. Apart from that, the chips on this, oh, my bad. If you guys can take a look right here, we have the GPS module. We have a Texas Instrument, I believe it's an ARM Cortex processor, and a couple others. If you come up and talk to us afterwards, I'd be happy to ID all these chips for you. In addition, you can see these banks of chips right here. There's four sets of 6 PMICs, and these are actually integrated speed controllers. So in most DIY drones, do any of you guys fly by any chance? Show of hands. So you know, like your ESCs eventually burn out. These guys are actually integrated ESCs. I'm assuming GoPro did their due diligence and matched the power to the motors so they don't burn out. But if they do, you might be, you know, SOL. You'd have to have a decent amount of confidence and gear to fix this board. On the flip side, where it's a little bit less densely packed, you have the motor connections and some other interesting stuff. You can come up afterwards and take a look if you guys would like.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate too. So when Evan and I present, we really actually are much bigger fans of kind of conversation as opposed to me just talking to you. So we really do encourage you guys to stop by the booth or come and talk to us afterwards, because that's really what we're here for. I mean, IFIXIT at DAC, it's so great. We've had so many people come up to us and be like, IFIXIT, sweet, you guys are here. Wait, why are you guys here? And it's solely to pretty much entertain you guys. So do us a favor and entertain us back, right? It's great. We would love to have some talks with you and show our devices. Also, we brought a bunch of devices, and I've been asking people to do it, and everyone's been shying away. Maybe it's because they have important people to talk to, but we really, really want people to come tear down stuff. We have a bunch of phones. If anyone wants to rip apart a phone, stop by our booth. It's a good time. All right, can we go back to the slides? Thank you. So I think, did I just jump way far ahead of you?
You did, actually. Only a little, though. Can we actually go back to the camera really quick? I want to show you guys this. So for the longest time, there you see these two boards flanking the motherboard on either side. There's this guy over here, and there's this guy over here. There's a couple notable things. A is the micro SD card slot over here that's actually not accessible. It's completely hidden by this piece of plastic. I assume it's for firmware updates or some sort of diagnostic tool, but it's neat to find it there. In addition, for a long time I thought these were antennas, but actually, if we look at the camera right there, these actually have a pair of switches on each of them, and they actually detect when the arms are extended or are in the collapse mode, so the GoPro actually knows when it's ready to fly. So I just thought that was a nifty little feature that they added in there. So once we pull these off, we are pretty much down to the airframe, and I think we're headed straight for the wireless chips embedded at the bottom.
And also, since we did this yesterday, we kind of have to keep the trend going. We did collect a bunch of business cards and gave away some tools. So I'm going to pass around a little baggie, and if people are interested in trying to collect tools, we'll, I said we were going to do it at the middle, and it was the end yesterday. It's going to be the same case, but I don't want. There's two guys here that won. They can't participate. But yeah, if you have, I'm just going to start here. If anyone wants to put their card in, I'll collect it later.
Yeah, so today we're giving away
you can put
a couple of the same things we gave away yesterday.
I'll put
this is our EET, our Essential Electronics Toolkit, the ProTech Toolkit, which is, you know, our basic toolkit right here. That's what I'm using right now. And then we also have our Universal Bit Kit, which has 128 bits. You can pretty much disassemble anything with this. I like to call it the Father's Day gift. It's got a nice little wooden case. It's pretty rad. I recently got one for myself, and I keep it on my desk.
Kind of a showpiece. Isn't it your new desk too?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks good. But also has the wide array of bits. So I talked about this yesterday, and I feel like I need to still talk about it a little bit too. It's just a lot of times what manufacturers will do is they will include some really odd screwdriver bits. So, you know, we like to see Phillips, flathead. Those are all, you know, in our wheelhouse, familiar. It makes us excited. Now, what we're often seeing is things like the Penelope or a Torx, and these are also some other proprietary screw bit types like a tri-point. Now the thing about these is you're not going to be running to Home Depot last minute to find it, because you're not going to find a Penelope bit at Home Depot. At least I have not been able to. Maybe it's just California. I have no idea. Now the thing is as repair people, that's really frustrating because it's a big barrier to entrance. And as if iPhones weren't terrifying enough with the cost, with, you know, it's the fact that we're so reliant on it. People are definitely not going to open their phone if they can't find the tools to do it. So as a company, we'd love to try to encourage manufacturers to be thoughtful, and that comes down to just minute details such as what type of bit or screw type head you use, because some scare people away more than they should. Evan, did you catch up to me yet, or are you stuck?
We have a bit of a situation here. um, I got this bit stuck right in the screw head, so you're gonna have to blather
Yeah,
for a little
let's
bit.
show it
while
on
I
the
take care
let's
of
show it
it.
on the camera. I'm curious. So,
This is a little bit embarrassing. The bit is currently stuck in between the screw and the edge of the plastic, and my pliers are at our booth. So I'm gonna blather on about how this is a. There we go. Cool. Yeah, we talk about having the right tools for the job. In this case, a very long shanked screwdriver is the right tool, but I've been doing this for a while. I think I can make it work.
and so another thing that we like to talk about is that iFixit breaks things so that you don't have to. So we are pretty much, Evan actually has really good hands. I'm relatively haphazard. I tore down the Google Pixel phone that just came out and I obliterated the screen, just absolutely decimated it. And so the goal when we do these types of things like decimate a screen or get screwdrivers stuck in the plastic is that we then know how to share that information with the masses. So if someone actually, and like we said, with this whole time we're tearing apart the drone, we're thinking, how reasonable is it for that high school student who buys his first drone to fix it when he crashes it into the tree? Like, that's what we want to think about. So when Evan jams his screwdriver in the drone and can't get it out, we need to take note of these things so that we can forward the message to the people so they don't do the same thing and they can actually fix their device. What we often do is we'll do the teardown as the pretty pictures, something like this, show the masses what's inside. And then after the fact, once we've already broken it and we kind of know what to expect, we'll go and make a bunch of repair manuals. So I just did a bunch of iPhone 7 manuals. Are you going for the Bluetooth?
Yeah, we're getting there. So the one component that they did not integrate into the motherboard for obvious interference reasons is the wireless module, which is located under the shield right here. And we'll have it out in about 30 seconds.
Now, Evan, is that something that do you have to do everything you've done at this point to get there?
Yeah, pretty much. The way it sits is you have this, I guess, mid-frame, battery frame, whatever you want to call it. It sits on top over here, and the motherboard had to come out to get to here. The top frame had to come out to get to there. Luckily, your Wi-Fi module isn't the first component you think of breaking, but if for whatever reason you need to access it, modify it, don't tell the FCC, it's a bit of a pain to get there, but you can do it.
And then what are we seeing for screw types, since that has been the theme of the day?
These have been entirely Torx and Allen screws. This is pretty relatively painless. Most DIYers have Torx screws available to them. I wouldn't say you would find it in like your parents', laundry room or whatever, but it's out there. It's pretty available. It's an open standard. All right, where are we at? We have, this is fun. We got some screws hidden underneath this tape right here, which is always fun to see.
Now, a lot of times as well things we have to keep in mind is that tape reminded me is, we've gotten this question a lot too, is there's warranty voiding. And that is something that's an interesting kind of hurdle. We notice devices put their void warranty stickers all over. The PlayStation, for example, you can open it from the top and you can open it from the bottom. They let you open it from the top because that allows you to clean the fan, I believe, right? That's the main motivation. But if you try to open the bottom, you void the warranty. There's a sticker that you have to break off in order to access the rest of the device. So that's a tough one, because if you void the warranty and you are still under warranty and you go and try to repair something, you void it, you fail, and take it back, they're usually not going to be super excited. Another thing is tough is companies then are also mad at us because people, if they approach their device, they open it, break it, and come back to it later, and then they're like, oh my gosh, we got to send it back to the company, and then they lie to the company. Oh, thank you. They're like, no, we're still under warranty, and the company would look at us and be like, hey, why'd you guys tell them to break this thing? You guys stink. This is bad. I'm losing money. And so we understand, and it's a bummer. However, still repair your stuff. We're all capable. We're all engineers. But if you still have a warranty, you could still maybe use that. I won't yell at you for that. Can we go back to the slides real quick? And then I think I have a picture. So this is what Evan was removing. It's kind of that, what do you call it, a battery caddy, the battery mid-frame.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, you guys can call it whatever you want. And then he just revealed that wireless chip. So as Evan was saying, it's probably not the most common thing to break. However, if it does, this would be the most arduous repair. You literally had to take everything apart, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, you had to dig all the way to the bottom to get there. And this is a Qualcomm wireless SoC. Any Qualcomm folks around here?
All right, we'll have to talk to you afterwards, then maybe you can tell us about it. Okay, so with that, Evan, I know you have some points. I want to know, can you repair it if I crash? Because this is something that will probably crash. Can I repair it?
Yeah, this isn't, with the drone, it's not if, it's when. So let's talk about it. I gave this a 6 out of 10 on repairability, and let's talk about why. First, right off the bat, the screws are all standard. They're Allens and they're Torx, and they're super easy to remove. Screws are great. Secondly, and this is huge, I stress this and I cannot stress enough, GoPro provides replacement parts. We thank them so much for giving people that opportunity. And when you see manufacturers taking the step to empower consumers like that, it's a great sign. So huge thumbs up for that. Finally, most of the mechanical parts are modular. This mid-frame, the motor arms, etc. They're pretty easy to remove and replace as long as you have access to parts. On the downside, all the electrical and logical components are embedded in that motherboard. And unless you have some pretty solid board level repair knowledge, you'll be hard pressed to repair anything on that. Finally, the glue over the connectors is not fun to deal with, and actually it makes reconnecting them really difficult because you have this plasticky crap over the connectors. But yes, overall, relatively painless procedure. Certain things can be fixed, but that's why we have iterative design.
And I guess one other thing that I totally want to nerd out on, just because I was going to bring this up earlier, I was always worried about time, but we'll have a raffle. We have 3 minutes, but people were asking me, I've been getting this question a lot. I don't know what it is, but drones, we brought them up and people were like, do you think drones are going to last? And so I don't know, I was thinking unlike an iPhone, you compared it to an iPhone, a weird comparison, but I was thinking like an iPhone, that provides so many services. But a drone, for the consumer, I was like, people might get tired of it. But right as I was explaining this, since I've been on this trip, I've seen an article in USA Today about how prisoners were smuggling guns and drugs into prison with a drone, fly it over, drop it. And then also we live in a wine region in California, and there's a startup that's using drones to manage their vineyards. I don't really know exactly how, but I was telling you about that.
Yeah, you were. We were talking about this.
Yeah,
right
so,
here.
And then The Economist just lit up a huge, article on, drones moving from the commercial sector consumer sector towards the commercial sector. So that's something that I think is super interesting, is talk about the applications of these, because he's really into drones, I'm kind of like whatever on it. However, there's apparently this big shift to industry. So interesting stuff. If you want to nerd out with us, please do, because I'm all about that. Now I guess we might as well.
Without further
ado,
we see some fresh face. Yeah.
Come on up,
excuse
man.
me. Do you want to come on up? All right, what was your name? Eli.
Say hi.
Thanks for coming up. Would you be so kind as to pick a name out of here?
Sure.
Awesome. Cool. What's that name?
Paul Duvoisin.
Do we got Paul from TI?
Paul from TI. Where you at?
There, he's right
Come on
there.
up. Congratulations. You are winning an EET today. I should have said this in advance. You're welcome. We're gonna raffle off the EET, the Pro Tech, and then the UBK. We have another EET reserved. Why don't you go and pick out another name?
Ken Kitamura.
Ken from Sony. You around here?
All right, Ken.
Ken, come on up. Awesome. And then Eli, would you be so kind as to pick out a third name? This one is for the UBK. Okay. I believe Sungju, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
That's you. Congratulations. Come on down. All right, sir, that is yours. And there you go.
And then our last EET.
And then last EET for Eli. Thanks for getting us started hanging out.
And yeah, I'm stoked. That's twice, 2 days in a row, we've actually had a young face. So talk to Eli. Encourage him to be an engineer, because that's so exciting. It's so cool. This is I feel like if I was your age, this would be like the most dull conference ever, but you know what? It's cool, so thank you for coming. Yeah, so we're just gonna hang out for a little bit, open the floor to any questions, so please come harass us. And thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.